People love beauty. They just do. That's something that I think brings them to the environment and to conservation.
Near the border of Lebanon and Lancaster counties, in central Pennsylvania, lies a small gem of a habitat that attracts wildlife and people alike.
The big deal about Middle Creek is that it's really brought the people together around one piece of wildlife. And here in Middle Creek, the people have recognized how important one particular species or one event, really, it can be bird watching, it can be walking, but it's all around the tundra swan and Middle Creek as a magnet, really, for attracting people to come together.
Every spring, the Middle Creek Wildlife Management Area becomes a temporary home to thousands of migrating birds as they begin their trip to their northern breeding grounds. Among the most anticipated visitors is the tundra swan. Some years, a few hundred swans may spend the winter at Middle Creek, but when migration from their more southerly wintering grounds begins, thousands may appear. Nearly 25% of the eastern population of tundra swans may pass through the Middle Creek area during migration.
Snow geese tend to travel in very large, very vocal flocks. Swans less so, much smaller flocks. Basically all white plumage, but in the case of the snow goose, black wingtips. So basically all white birds, but if you see black wingtips, you're looking at a snow goose. If it's all white with a huge, long neck and a pretty melodious call, that's a tundra swan.
On the way from their wintering grounds on the lower Chesapeake Bay and in North Carolina, the swans stop to rest and refuel for their long journey to Canada and the North Slope of Alaska.
The amazing thing about tundra swans is their migration. They spend a good portion of their life on migration. So twice a year, 4,000 miles.
For their nutritional needs, the swans depend on Middle Creek's surrounding farmlands.
Their feeding behavior and their lower overall numbers lessen the impacts on crops. And a swan feeding on waste grain in a harvested cornfield is actually a benefit in that they're eliminating that grain that will perhaps sprout on its own where they don't want it to the following spring.
We have a lot of tundra swans in winter in Pennsylvania. It's also a major spring staging area. It's sort of the first stop as these birds are going 3,000 or 4,000 miles north to their breeding grounds in the Arctic. And when they get up to the Arctic, they need to have the nutrient reserves already in place to start nesting because spring is so late up there. So they need to be picking up nutrients the whole way from Pennsylvania up through the Great Lakes, the prairies, and all the way up into the Arctic. So each one of those stops, it's really important that the swans be able to have access to those high quality feeding areas. We feel like most of the roosting areas are pretty well protected and secure. We don't have to worry too much about that status. But the farmland is excellent for producing crops, but a lot of people also look at it as being good for development, whether that's houses or industry, whatever. But when those fields are built on and paved over and turned into housing developments, the food source goes away and then that habitat's lost to the swans. And eventually, if enough of that habitat is lost, either the birds will not be able to use the area anymore, or they'll be so packed into the remaining small tracts of habitat that they'll have to expend extra energy, and in the long term it could pose a problem for the population.
For their nutritional needs, the swans depend on Middle Creek's surrounding farmlands. The agricultural areas around Middle Creek are of vital importance to swans and other waterfowl. However, development pressures are real, and residential development threatens the area.
There was a number of organizations that are trying to preserve farmland, and we can tie wildlife in with that because it's part of their habitat as well. We can do something locally conserving these farmlands that will have a positive impact on the tundra swans over their entire range. And even though they spend over 40% of their life in migration, and they may not spend a lot of time at any one point along that migratory route, but each of those areas where they stop is critical, and Middle Creek has been identified as one of those critical areas.
In addition to the interest from groups like Audubon Pennsylvania and Ducks Unlimited, another organization concerned with the sustainability of wildlife areas like Middle Creek is the Pennsylvania Highlands Coalition.
Yeah, the PA Highlands is a coalition of organizations that have identified the Highlands region as an area from western Connecticut down through New York, New Jersey, and into southeastern Pennsylvania. Middle Creek falls within the southern end of that Highlands region, and so the interest of that group in preserving area in this part of southeastern Pennsylvania is one of their priorities as well.
The invasion of the built environment into the natural environment is taking its toll on open space. The preservation of the agricultural landscapes in areas around Middle Creek for wildlife like the tundra swan is also important to many other interests, including sportsmen.
There is less and less land on the landscape for birds to use. Vast majority of the people that come to support us, which is over 700,000, probably 60% of those folks actually hunt and fish. But it's the volunteers that are part of the process. Those are probably 98% hunters. For us, it's a matter of legacy. It's very important from our sense when we look at places like Middle Creek as an area that's very important to waterfowl, created by the Game Commission, funded by private individuals, hunters, fishermen, trappers.